90% of your decisions are not made by you. That number comes from Harvard neuroscience research, and it changes everything you thought you knew about success, failure, and why you choke under pressure. Right now, as you listen to this, a system inside your body is running your life. It decides when you panic, when you freeze, when your mind goes blank in the exact moment you need it most. This system has a name, and in the next 18 minutes, you will learn how to control it. Don't skip ahead. What you're about to hear will rewire how you respond to pressure for the rest of your life. Let me tell you about Daniel. Daniel Cole is 38 years old, senior product director at a major tech company in San Francisco. On paper, he has everything: the title, the salary, the corner office with the view. But here's what nobody sees. It's Tuesday morning, 9:47. Daniel is sitting in a conference room, waiting for the biggest presentation of his quarter. 12 executives, one shot to secure funding for his project. His hands are shaking, not a little, visibly. He puts them under the table. His heart is pounding so hard he can hear it in his ears. His thoughts are racing. What if I forget the numbers? What if they ask something I can't answer? What if they see through me? Daniel has prepared for 2 weeks. He knows every slide, every data point, every possible question. But none of that matters right now, because his body has taken over. His throat tightens. His breathing becomes shallow. When the CEO asks the first question, Daniel's mind goes completely blank. 3 seconds of silence that feel like 3 hours. He stumbles through an answer. It's weak. He knows it. They know it. After the meeting, Daniel sits in his car for 20 minutes, hands still trembling. One thought repeating, what is wrong with me? Here's the truth Daniel didn't know that day. Nothing was wrong with him. His nervous system was doing exactly what it was designed to do. This is where everything changes. Stay with me. Your nervous system is the command center of your entire life. It controls your heartbeat, your breathing, your digestion. But more importantly, it controls how you respond to pressure. Stanford University's Anxiety Research Lab has spent over 15 years studying this phenomenon. Their findings are remarkable. When your brain perceives a threat, real or imagined, it triggers what neuroscientists call the amygdala hijack. Your amygdala, the almond-shaped structure deep in your brain, floods your body with stress hormones. Cortisol, adrenaline. Your heart rate spikes. Blood rushes away from your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for logical thinking, and toward your muscles. This is the fight or flight response. It kept your ancestors alive when they faced saber-toothed tigers. But here's the problem. Your nervous system cannot tell the difference between a tiger and a Tuesday morning presentation. To your amygdala, the CEO asking a tough question triggers the same response as a predator attack. Your body prepares to run or fight. But you can't run from a boardroom. You can't fight a spreadsheet. So you freeze. Your mind goes blank. Your voice shakes. Your hands tremble. This is not weakness. This is biology. And this is exactly what happened to Daniel. Now here's what separates elite performers from everyone else. Average people try to think their way out of a stress response. They tell themselves, calm down, relax, stop being nervous. It never works. Because you cannot reason with your amygdala. It doesn't speak the language of logic. Elite performers do something completely different. Research from MIT's neuroscience department, published in 2022, revealed a critical distinction. Top performers don't try to suppress their stress response. They regulate their nervous system first, then think. Average, react first, think later. Result, chaos spiral. Elite, regulate first, then think. Result, clear decisions under pressure. This single difference accounts for why some people thrive in high-stakes moments while others collapse. Daniel didn't know this. He thought his problem was mental. It wasn't. His problem was physiological. His nervous system was stuck in threat mode. And until he learned to reset it, no amount of preparation would save him. Stop for a moment. Think about the last time pressure got the best of you. A job interview, a difficult conversation, a moment when everything was on the line. What happened in your body? Did your heart race? Did your palms sweat? Did your thoughts scatter like papers in the wind? That wasn't you failing. That was your nervous system taking control. And here's the part most people never realize. Your nervous system is programmable. Just like you can train a muscle, You can train your nervous system to respond differently to pressure. This isn't theory. This isn't wishful thinking. This is neuroscience. The question is, will you learn how? Let me give you the full picture. Your autonomic nervous system has two main branches: the sympathetic nervous system, which activates your stress response, and the parasympathetic nervous system, which calms you down. Think of them like a gas pedal and a brake. In healthy individuals, these systems balance each other. Stress comes, the gas pedal engages. Stress passes, the brake activates, and you return to baseline. But here's what Harvard Medical School's Stress Research Division discovered in 2019. In chronically stressed individuals, the brake stops working properly. Their nervous system gets stuck in sympathetic overdrive. The gas pedal is pushed to the floor all day, every day, even when there's no real threat. This is Daniel. This is possibly you. Your nervous system learned, through years of high-pressure environments, that the world is dangerous, that you must always be alert, that relaxation equals vulnerability, so it keeps you in survival mode. Cortisol constantly elevated, adrenaline always ready, mind always scanning for threats. The result? You feel anxious even when nothing is wrong. You can't shut off your thoughts at night. You overreact to small problems. And when real pressure hits, you have no reserve capacity. You're running on empty before the race even starts. Here's another critical difference. Average people believe they are anxious. They say, "I'm just a nervous person. This is who I am." Elite performers understand something different. They know that anxiety is not an identity. It's a state, and states can be changed. Dr. Elena Brooks, a neuroscientist who has coached Olympic athletes and Fortune 500 executives, puts it this way: you are not anxious. You are experiencing anxiety. There's a world of difference. One is permanent. The other is temporary. One is a prison. The other is a skill gap. Read that again. You are not anxious. You are untrained. This reframe changes everything. Because if anxiety is who you are, you're stuck. But if anxiety is a pattern your nervous system learned, you can unlearn it. You can train a different response. You can become someone who stays calm under pressure, not by forcing it, not by faking it, but by rewiring the system at its source. Here's your first tool. This is called the physiological sigh. It was identified by Stanford neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman as the fastest way to activate your parasympathetic nervous system in real time. Here's how it works. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Then, before you exhale, take a second, shorter breath in. Stack it on top of the first. Now exhale slowly through your mouth, making the exhale longer than the inhale. That's it. 2 inhales stacked, 1 long exhale. Do this right now. Don't just listen. Do it. Inhale deeply through your nose. Quick second inhale. Now exhale slowly, letting all the air out. What happens is remarkable. The double inhale opens up the tiny air sacs in your lungs called alveoli. This increases the surface area for oxygen exchange. The long exhale activates your vagus nerve, which signals your brain to shift from fight or flight to rest and digest. Within 1 to 3 breaths, your heart rate drops. Your thoughts clear. Your hands stop shaking. This is not meditation. This is not relaxation. This is a physiological override. Elite performers use this constantly. Before big meetings, before difficult conversations, before stepping onto the field or the stage. 3 breaths, 30 seconds, complete nervous system reset. Daniel didn't know this technique that Tuesday morning, but he would learn it, and it would change his career. Let me tell you who you're becoming. You're not here by accident. You clicked on this audiobook because something inside you knows you're capable of more. You know that the panic, the overthinking, the freezing under pressure, that's not the real you. The real you is calm, clear, capable. And starting today, you will learn to access that version of yourself on command. This is not about becoming someone different. It's about removing the barriers that block who you already are. Calm is a skill, and you will master it. Say this with me, out loud if you can. I am becoming someone who stays calm under pressure. This is your new identity. Not someday. Starting now. But here's the thing Daniel discovered, and it almost broke him before it saved him. The techniques don't work if you're fighting against a lie. There's a myth about staying calm that nearly everyone believes. It sounds true. It feels true. Entire industries are built on it. And it's completely wrong. This lie is the reason most people fail at emotional regulation. It's the reason meditation apps get deleted after 2 weeks. It's the reason you've tried to stay calm before and couldn't. In the next chapter, you'll discover what this lie is. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Your entire approach to pressure will shift. Daniel learned this the hard way. You don't have to. Stay with me. The next insight changes everything. Chapter 2. The lie about staying calm. Everything you've been told about staying calm is wrong. For decades, the self-help industry has sold you a lie. Therapists repeat it. Meditation apps are built on it. Your well-meaning friends say it every time you're stressed. Just calm down. Take a deep breath. Think positive thoughts. Here's the brutal truth. This advice doesn't just fail. It makes things worse. A 2021 study from Yale's Emotional Regulation Lab proved something that changes everything. Trying to suppress anxiety increases it by up to 40%. You've been fighting your nervous system with the wrong weapons. And today that ends. Let me tell you about Ava. Ava Turner is 26 years old. She works as a nurse in one of London's busiest hospitals. 12-hour shifts, life and death decisions, constant pressure. On the surface, Ava looks like she has it together. Her colleagues call her the calm one. Patients trust her instantly. Doctors rely on her precision. But inside, Ava is drowning. It's 3 in the morning. Ava is in the break room, hands wrapped around a cold cup of tea she forgot to drink 2 hours ago. Her shift ended at 11, but she can't go home. Her mind won't stop. Did I check the patient's vitals correctly? What if I missed something? That doctor seemed annoyed when I asked the question. Did I sound stupid? What if they think I'm not competent? Ava replays every conversation from her shift, every decision, every interaction, looking for mistakes, finding them everywhere. This is Ava's nightly ritual. Lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, her brain running through an endless loop of what-ifs and should-haves. She's tried everything. Meditation apps, deleted after 2 weeks. Journaling, gave up after 3 entries. Breathing exercises, they work for 30 seconds. Then the thoughts come crashing back. Every night, Ava tells herself the same thing. Just stop thinking about it. Let it go. Calm down. It never works. And here's why. This is the lie that you can think your way out of a feeling. It sounds logical. Your mind creates anxious thoughts, so your mind should be able to stop them. Just choose different thoughts. Just decide to be calm. But neuroscience reveals a different story. Dr. Matthew Lieberman at UCLA conducted groundbreaking research using brain imaging technology. His findings, published in 2017, showed something remarkable. When you try to suppress an emotion using willpower alone, you activate your prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain. But here's the catch. The prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, your emotional center, are in constant competition for resources. Under stress, your amygdala wins. Every time. This is called the amygdala hijack. When your threat detection system activates, it literally shuts down the part of your brain responsible for rational thinking. Blood flow decreases to the prefrontal cortex. Neural activity plummets. You cannot reason with a brain that has gone offline. Telling yourself to calm down during a stress response is like telling someone to speak French when they've never learned the language. The hardware isn't available. This is what Ava didn't understand. She thought her inability to stop overthinking was a character flaw, a weakness, proof that she wasn't mentally strong enough. It wasn't. Her brain was functioning exactly as designed. The lie had set her up to fail. Here's the first distinction that separates those who master pressure from those who crumble. Average people try to control their thoughts directly. They use phrases like, "Stop thinking about it. Don't be anxious. I shouldn't feel this way." This is called cognitive suppression, and research from Harvard's psychology department shows it backfires spectacularly. The study, conducted in 2019, asked participants to suppress thoughts about a white bear. The result? They thought about white bears more frequently than the control group. Far more. This is called the ironic rebound effect. The harder you try not to think something, the more your brain fixates on it. Elite performers know this, so they don't fight their thoughts. They change the conditions that create those thoughts in the first place. Average, Fight the symptom. Result: symptom intensifies. Elite: address the source. Result: symptom dissolves. The source is never your thoughts. The source is always your nervous system state. Ava was fighting symptoms. Every night, battling her thoughts like an enemy army. And every night, losing the war. Because she was attacking the wrong target. There's another layer to this deception, and it's even more insidious. The lie tells you that calm is the absence of stress, that successful people don't feel pressure, that the goal is to eliminate anxiety entirely. This is catastrophically wrong. Stanford psychologist Dr. Kelly McGonigal conducted a landmark study tracking 30,000 Americans over 8 years. The findings were published in 2013 and changed how scientists understand stress. The study revealed that stress itself doesn't kill people. The belief that stress is harmful does. Participants who experienced high stress but didn't view it as harmful had the lowest mortality rates in the entire study, lower than people who experienced relatively little stress. Read that again. It's not the pressure that destroys you. It's your relationship with pressure. Elite performers don't try to eliminate stress. They transform their relationship with it. They see pressure as a signal that something important is happening, a sign that they care. Fuel for performance. Average performers see pressure as a threat, something to escape, proof that something is wrong. Same stress, completely different outcomes. The lie taught you to fear your own physiology, and that fear is what's keeping you stuck. 6 months into her nursing career, Ava hit bottom. It was a Tuesday night. A patient in critical condition. Ava was assisting the attending physician when an emergency alarm sounded. Another patient coding in the next room. The doctor ran out. Ava was left alone with her patient for 90 seconds. 90 seconds that changed everything. In that moment, with alarms blaring and a life in her hands, Ava's mind went completely blank. Her training vanished. Her thoughts scrambled into white noise. She stood frozen, unable to remember the most basic protocols. A senior nurse rushed in and took over. The patient survived, but Ava didn't come back to work for 3 days. She sat in her apartment, convinced she was broken, that she'd chosen the wrong career, that she was fundamentally incapable of handling pressure. What Ava experienced has a clinical name: emotional flooding. When stress exceeds your nervous system's capacity to regulate, everything shuts down. Your thinking brain goes offline. Your body freezes. You become trapped inside a stress response with no exit. This is what happens when you spend years fighting the wrong battle. When you exhaust your mental resources suppressing symptoms instead of building genuine resilience. Ava had been running on empty, and that Tuesday night, she crashed. Here's the insight that would eventually save Ava's career, and it might save yours. You cannot think your way into calm, but you can breathe your way there. Move your way there. Physically shift your nervous system state. This is called the body-first principle, and it's backed by decades of research. Dr. Stephen Porges, professor of psychiatry at the University of North Carolina, developed what's known as polyvagal theory. His research, spanning over 40 years, demonstrates that your nervous system state determines your psychological state, not the other way around. When your body is in a state of threat, your mind will generate threatening thoughts. When your body shifts to a state of safety, your mind follows. This is why meditation apps fail most people. They start with the mind. Observe your thoughts. Notice your feelings. But if your nervous system is in overdrive, observation becomes impossible. You're asking someone to watch a movie while their house is on fire. Elite performers flip the sequence. Body first, then mind. Regulate the nervous system, then engage the intellect. This single reversal is worth more than 1,000 affirmations. Here's how this plays out in practice. Average person before a high-pressure moment runs through worst-case scenarios, tells themselves not to be nervous, reviews their preparation mentally, tries to suppress rising anxiety. Result: nervous system escalates. Performance suffers. Elite performer before a high-pressure moment activates specific body-based protocols, regulates breathing, engages the vagus nerve, shifts physical posture, creates physiological safety. Result: nervous system stabilizes. Clear thinking returns. Performance optimized. The difference isn't willpower. It isn't mental toughness in the way most people understand it. It's sequencing. Average, mind first, body ignored. Elite, body first, mind follows. Ava had spent her entire life trying to think her way out of anxiety. No one had ever taught her that the entrance to calm wasn't through her mind. It was through her body. Here's your second tool. This one saved Ava. It's called the vagal reset. It directly activates your parasympathetic nervous system through physical manipulation of the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve in your body. It runs from your brainstem through your neck, chest, and abdomen. It's the main communication highway between your body and your brain's calming system. When you stimulate the vagus nerve, you send a direct signal to your brain. We are safe. Stand down from threat mode. Here's the technique. Do this with me right now. Place your hand on your chest. Take a normal breath in. Now hum as you exhale. A low, steady hum. Feel the vibration in your chest and throat. That vibration stimulates the vagus nerve directly. Do it 3 times. Inhale. Hum on the exhale. Feel the vibration. Now here's the advanced version. After humming, gently splash cold water on your face or hold something cold against your cheeks and forehead. This activates the dive reflex, an automatic nervous system response that slows your heart rate immediately. Humming plus cold exposure. 90 seconds. Complete vagal reset. Ava learned this technique from Dr. Elena Brooks, the neuroscientist and performance coach we'll meet fully in the next chapter. She now uses it before every shift, sometimes during shifts. In the bathroom, splashing cold water on her face, humming quietly. Her colleagues still call her the calm one. But now, that calm is real, built on biology, not suppression. Here's the truth you need to hear. Your anxiety is not a life sentence. Your overthinking is not your personality. The way you've responded to pressure until now is not the way you have to respond forever. You were never broken. You were just using broken tools. The lie told you to fight yourself, to suppress, control, and white-knuckle your way through stress. That war was unwinnable from the start. Today, you've learned a different way. Body first. Nervous system regulation. Working with your biology instead of against it. This is the beginning of your transformation. Say this out loud. I don't fight my nervous system. I work with it. Calm is my skill to build. This is who you are now. Ava learned to regulate her nervous system in moments of stress. Daniel learned the physiological sigh. Both made progress. But there was still someone who seemed beyond help. Marcus Reed was 31 years old, a professional athlete at the peak of his physical abilities, trained his whole life for high-pressure moments. And yet, when it mattered most, he choked. Every single time. The techniques that worked for Ava and Daniel didn't touch Marcus's problem, because his issue wasn't just his nervous system. It was a memory, a single moment seared into his brain that hijacked him every time the stakes got high. In the next chapter, you'll learn how top performers don't just regulate pressure. They rewire their relationship with it entirely. You'll discover the neuroscience of fear memory and the protocol that finally set Marcus free. This is where transformation goes deeper than techniques. Stay with me. What comes next changes everything. Chapter 3. How top performers rewire pressure. Your brain changes shape based on what you repeatedly do. This isn't metaphor. It's neuroscience. And it's the reason some people crumble under pressure while others come alive. Researchers at University College London proved it in 2011. They scanned the brains of London taxi drivers and discovered something extraordinary. The hippocampus, the brain region responsible for spatial memory, was physically larger in drivers who had navigated the city for years. Their brains had literally grown new neural tissue. The same principle applies to pressure. Your response to stress is not fixed. It's trained. And what's trained can be retrained. Let me tell you about Marcus. Marcus Reed is 31 years old. Professional basketball player. 6'4", 215 pounds of trained muscle and athletic precision. For 23 years, Marcus has lived and breathed one thing: performance under pressure. He's taken thousands of clutch shots, played in front of crowds of 20,000. His body knows what to do with a basketball better than it knows how to walk. But there's a problem. When the game is on the line, Marcus chokes. Not sometimes. Every time. It started 3 years ago. Conference finals. 7 seconds left. Marcus's team down by 2. The ball in his hands. He'd made this shot 100 times in practice. 1,000 times. Eyes closed. Half asleep. Automatic. But in that moment, with cameras flashing and millions watching, something happened. His arms felt heavy. His vision narrowed. A voice in his head screamed, "Don't miss. Don't miss. Don't be the one who loses this." He missed. The ball hit the back rim, bounced twice, and fell away. Game over. Season over. Marcus stood at center court, 20,000 people silent, and felt something break inside him. Not his body. His belief. Here's what happened in Marcus's brain that night. And here's why it kept happening for 3 years after. When you experience a highly emotional event, your amygdala encodes it differently than ordinary memories. It tags the memory as critical for survival. Dangerous. Never forget this. This is called a fear memory, and it operates by different rules than normal recollection. Normal memories fade over time. They become less vivid, less emotional, less controlling. Fear memories don't fade. They stay raw, fresh, ready to activate at the slightest trigger. Dr. Joseph Ledoux at New York University has spent 4 decades studying fear memories. His research, published across hundreds of peer-reviewed papers, reveals a disturbing truth. Fear memories create neural pathways that become superhighways in your brain. Every time the memory activates, the pathway strengthens. The trigger becomes more sensitive. The response becomes more automatic. For Marcus, the trigger was any high-stakes moment, any shot that mattered, any situation where failure was visible. His brain had learned, this situation equals danger. This situation equals shame. This situation requires maximum threat response. 3 years of games, hundreds of clutch moments, every single one hijacked by a memory from one night in the conference finals. Marcus wasn't choking because he lacked skill. He was choking because his brain had been rewired to panic in exactly these situations. The question was, could it be rewired again? This is where Dr. Elena Brooks enters the story. Dr. Brooks is 44 years old, neuroscientist by training, high-performance coach by calling. She's worked with Olympic gold medalists, Navy SEALs, Fortune 500 CEOs, and world champion athletes. Her specialty, rewiring the brain for pressure. When Marcus walked into her office in Toronto, he was ready to quit basketball. 3 years of therapy. 3 years of sports psychologists telling him to visualize success. 3 years of failure. Dr. Brooks listened to his story. Then she said something that changed everything. Your problem isn't mental. It's neural, and neural pathways can be rebuilt. She pulled up a brain scan on her monitor. This is a fear memory, she said, pointing to a cluster of activity in the limbic system. It's not stored in words. It's stored in sensation, body memory, emotional imprint. That's why talking about it doesn't fix it. Marcus leaned forward. So what does? Dr. Brooks smiled. You don't erase the old pathway. You build a new one. Stronger, faster, more automatic, until your brain defaults to the new response instead of the old one. She paused. The brain doesn't care which pathway wins. It just uses whichever one is strongest. Right now, your fear pathway is a 6-lane highway. Your performance pathway is a dirt road. We're going to reverse that. Let me give you the science. This is critical. Neuroplasticity is your brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. It was once believed that the brain was fixed after childhood, that adults were stuck with the neural architecture they had. This belief was catastrophically wrong. In 1998, researchers at the Salk Institute discovered that adult brains generate new neurons throughout life. This finding, published in Nature Neuroscience, revolutionized our understanding of the human brain. You are not stuck with the brain you have. You are constantly building the brain you use. Here's how it works. Every thought you think, every action you take, strengthens specific neural pathways. Neurons that fire together wire together. This is called Hebbian learning, named after Canadian psychologist Donald Hebb, who proposed it in 1949. The pathways you use most become your defaults, your automatic responses, your personality in neurological terms. But here's the key insight from Stanford's neuroplasticity research, published in 2018. New pathways can override old ones. When you deliberately practice a new response, you create a competing neural pathway. At first, it's weak. The old pathway dominates. But with consistent activation, the new pathway strengthens. Eventually, it becomes the default. This is not theory. This is how elite performers are made. They don't have different brains. They have differently trained brains. Here's the distinction that matters. Average people believe their responses are fixed. They say, "This is just how I react under pressure. I've always been this way. It's my personality." This belief is neurologically false, and it's devastatingly self-fulfilling. When you believe a response is permanent, you stop trying to change it. You stop practicing alternatives. The old pathway keeps getting reinforced. Your belief becomes your reality. Elite performers operate from a different belief. They understand that every response is a trained pattern, and trained patterns can be retrained. Average, my response is who I am. Result, stuck in old patterns forever. Elite, my response is what I've practiced. Result, deliberate improvement possible. Marcus had believed he was a choker. That label had become his identity, and his brain had organized itself around that identity. Dr. Brooks gave him a different frame. You're not a choker. You're someone with a highly trained fear response to high-stakes moments. The training was accidental. Now we make it intentional. One sentence. Complete paradigm shift. Dr. Brooks didn't give Marcus affirmations. She didn't tell him to visualize success. She gave him a system. She called it the RESET protocol. RESET stands for recognize, engage, shift, execute, transform. This framework was developed from her work with hundreds of elite performers. It integrates neuroscience, somatic psychology, and performance research into a practical sequence anyone can use. Let me break it down. Recognize. The first step is awareness. You must catch the stress response early, before it takes full control. This means learning your personal warning signs. Tight shoulders, shallow breathing, racing thoughts, a specific sensation in your chest or stomach. For Marcus, the warning sign was tunnel vision. When his visual field started narrowing, he knew the fear response was activating. Recognition creates a gap, a moment between stimulus and response. In that gap lies your power. Engage. Once you recognize the response, you engage your body immediately, not your thoughts, your physiology. This is the body-first principle we discussed in Chapter 2. Physiological side. Vagal reset. Any technique that activates the parasympathetic nervous system. You have roughly 90 seconds before a stress response reaches full intensity. If you engage the body in that window, you can interrupt the cascade. Shift. With your nervous system stabilized, now you shift your mental frame. Not through suppression, through redirection. Dr. Brooks taught Marcus a specific technique called pressure reframing. Instead of thinking "don't miss," he would think, "I live for these moments." Instead of "everyone is watching," he would think, "This is what I trained for." The content of your thoughts matters less than the emotional charge. Fear-based thoughts keep the threat response active. Opportunity-based thoughts signal safety to the brain. Execute. Now you act. With a regulated nervous system and a shifted frame, you execute your trained skill. This is crucial. You don't think about the mechanics. You trust your training. Your conscious mind stays focused on the present moment, not the outcome. For Marcus, this meant focusing on the feel of the ball, not the result of the shot. Transform. The final step happens after the moment passes. Win or lose, you consciously encode the new pattern. If you succeeded, acknowledge it. Let yourself feel the positive emotion. This strengthens the new pathway. If you struggled, extract the lesson without self-attack. Ask, what did I learn? What will I do differently? Transformation is cumulative. Every rep of the reset protocol builds the new neural highway. Here's how this plays out. Average people have no protocol. When pressure hits, they react automatically. Whatever their nervous system does, they do. They're passengers in their own stress response. Elite performers have a trained sequence. Pressure hits, protocol activates. They become pilots, not passengers. Average, pressure triggers reaction. No intervention. Old patterns repeat. Elite, pressure triggers protocol. Deliberate intervention. New patterns form. The difference isn't talent. It's training. And training is available to everyone. Marcus didn't become clutch overnight. It took months of deliberate practice. Thousands of reps. Countless moments of catching himself, resetting, reframing, executing. But his brain did change. The fear highway started to shrink from disuse. The performance highway started to widen. 8 months after meeting Dr. Brooks, Marcus stood at center court again. Different arena. Same situation. 12 seconds left. Team down by 1. Ball in his hands. The old feelings came. Tunnel vision started. Heart rate spiked. The voice whispered, "You're going to miss. You always miss." But this time, Marcus had a system. Recognize. He caught the tunnel vision. Named it internally. There it is. Engage. 2 physiological sighs. In and out. In and out. Heart rate dropped. Shift. He thought, I live for this. This is exactly where I want to be. Execute. Eyes on the rim. Trust the training. Release. The ball arced through the air. Time suspended. Thousands of people holding their breath. Swish. Nothing but net. Marcus didn't scream. He didn't pound his chest. He stood still for a moment, eyes closed, encoding the new pathway. Transform. This is who I am now. This is what I do. The crowd erupted. But the real victory was invisible. Inside Marcus's brain, a new highway had just been paved. Here's what I want you to understand. Marcus isn't special. His brain isn't different from yours. He simply learned a system and practiced it relentlessly. The reset protocol isn't magic. It's neuroscience applied. Recognition, engagement, shifting, execution, transformation. 5 steps. Practiced until automatic. You can do this. Starting today, think of a high-pressure situation you regularly face. A meeting, a difficult conversation, a performance moment. Now map your warning signs. What does your body do when stress starts building? Shoulders tense? Breath shorten? Stomach tighten? That's your recognition signal. Next time it happens, don't fight it. Don't ignore it. Engage. 2 physiological sighs. Shift your frame. Execute your skill. And afterward, consciously encode what you learned. Every rep builds the pathway. Every practice session grows the highway. This is how pressure becomes your ally instead of your enemy. Let this land. You are not stuck with your current responses. You are not defined by your worst moments under pressure. Every neural pathway in your brain is a construction, not a permanent fixture. The brain you have today is the brain you've accidentally trained. The brain you'll have tomorrow is the brain you deliberately build. Starting now, you are a person who trains their response to pressure. You have a protocol. You have a system. You are no longer a passenger. Say this with me. My brain is plastic. My responses are trainable. I am building new pathways every day. This is the foundation of everything that follows. You now have the framework. Reset. Recognize. Engage. Shift. Execute. Transform. But there's a problem. When pressure hits fast, when you have seconds instead of minutes, the full protocol is too slow. You need something quicker. Something you can execute in 30 seconds or less. This is what Dr. Elena Brooks calls the rapid reset. It's what she teaches executives before they walk into board meetings. What she teaches athletes in the locker room before championship games. What she teaches surgeons before they make the first cut. In the next chapter, you'll learn the 30-second protocol that changes everything. 1 technique. Free breaths. Complete nervous system override. Daniel used it before his next big presentation. The same presentation that once left him shaking in his car. This time, he walked in calm, clear, and commanding. What happened in that room will shock you. Stay with me. The next chapter is where theory becomes transformation. Chapter 4. The 30-second reset. 30 seconds can rewire your entire response to pressure. Not 30 minutes of meditation. Not 30 days of therapy. 30 seconds. This isn't exaggeration. It's what researchers at the HeartMath Institute discovered after 2 decades of studying nervous system regulation. Their data, collected from over 11,000 participants, prove that specific physiological techniques can shift your body from stress to calm in under a minute. The technique you're about to learn has been used by surgeons before life-or-death operations, by astronauts before launch, by elite athletes before championship moments. And in the next few minutes, it becomes yours. Dr. Elena Brooks sat across from Daniel Cole in her office in downtown San Francisco. It had been 3 weeks since Daniel's disastrous presentation. 3 weeks since he sat shaking in his car, convinced something was fundamentally broken inside him. A colleague had recommended Dr. Brooks. She works with people who perform under impossible pressure, he'd said. Navy SEALs, Olympians, CEOs. She's different. Daniel was skeptical. He'd tried executive coaching before, visualization exercises, positive affirmations. None of it touched the panic that seized him when stakes were high. But he was desperate. So he made the call. Now, sitting in her office, Daniel noticed something strange. He felt calm, not the forced calm of willpower. Something different. The room itself seemed to radiate stillness. "Tell me about the presentation," Dr. Brooks said. Her voice was measured, unhurried. Daniel described it. The shaking hands, the racing heart, the blank mind, the 3 seconds of silence that felt like drowning. Dr. Brooks nodded. How long did it take for the panic to fully take over? Daniel thought about it. Maybe 60 seconds? 90? It built up during the CEO's first question. Good, she said. That's your window. Daniel frowned. Window for what? Dr. Brooks leaned forward. Your nervous system doesn't flip instantly from calm to crisis. There's a buildup, a cascade. During that cascade, you have a choice point. Miss it, and the stress response takes full control. Catch it, and you can redirect everything. She stood and walked to a whiteboard, drew a simple graph, a line rising sharply, then plateauing at the top. This is your stress response, she said, pointing to the rising line. The climb takes 60 to 90 seconds for most people. Once it plateaus here, she tapped the top. You're in full amygdala hijack. Rational thinking offline. Body in survival mode. She drew a second line. This one rose, then curved back down before reaching the plateau. This is what we're training. Intervention during the climb. Catch it early, redirect it fast, and you never reach the hijack point. Daniel stared at the graph. And that's possible in 30 seconds. Dr. Brooks smiled. Let me show you. Everything I'm about to teach you, Dr. Brooks said, centers on one nerve, the vagus nerve. Master this nerve, and you master your stress response. She pulled up an anatomical diagram on her screen. Vagus comes from the Latin word for wandering, and that's exactly what this nerve does. It wanders from your brainstem through your neck, into your heart, lungs, and digestive system. It's the longest nerve in your autonomic nervous system. Daniel studied the image. A branching pathway connecting brain to body. The vagus nerve is your body's brake pedal, Dr. Brooks continued. When it activates strongly, it tells your brain, we are safe. Stand down from threat mode. Heart rate drops. Breathing slows. Stress hormones decrease. She pointed to a specific region. This is called vagal tone. Think of it like muscle tone, but for your calming system. High vagal tone means your brake pedal works well. You can downregulate stress quickly. Low vagal tone means the brake is weak. Stress takes over easily and lingers. Can vagal tone be improved? Daniel asked. Absolutely. That's exactly what we're going to do. Dr. Brooks closed the diagram. Here's what most people don't understand. The vagus nerve is a two-way street. It carries signals from brain to body, but also from body to brain. This is crucial. She paused to let that land. Most people try to calm down by changing their thoughts. They start at the brain and hope it reaches the body. But the vagus nerve gives us a backdoor. We can start at the body and send calming signals directly to the brain. Daniel felt something click. That's why breathing exercises sometimes work. Exactly. But most breathing exercises are too slow, too vague, and not targeted enough for acute stress. What I'm going to teach you is different. It's precise. It's fast. And it works even when your mind is already spiraling. Dr. Brooks stood up. On your feet. We're doing this now. Daniel hesitated, then stood. The protocol has 3 parts, she said. Each part takes about 10 seconds. Total time, 30 seconds. I call it the rapid reset. She positioned herself in front of him. Part 1. Box breathing with extended exhale. For seconds in. For seconds hold. 6 seconds out. The extended exhale is critical. It activates the parasympathetic response more powerfully than equal inhale-exhale ratios. She demonstrated, inhaling through her nose for 4 counts, holding for 4, exhaling slowly through her mouth for 6. Do it with me. Daniel followed. 4 in, 4 hold, 6 out. He felt his shoulders drop slightly. Good. That's 10 seconds. Now part 2. Dr. Brooks placed her hand on her chest. Physiological grounding. Place your hand on your chest. Feel your heartbeat. This activates interoception, your brain's awareness of internal body states. It pulls your attention out of spiraling thoughts and into physical sensation. Daniel placed his hand on his chest. He could feel his heart, still beating faster than normal. Now press gently. Light pressure on the sternum stimulates the vagus nerve directly. Hold for 10 seconds while taking another slow breath. He pressed, breathed. Something shifted. Part 3, Dr. Brooks said. Orienting. Look around the room slowly. Name 5 things you can see. Not out loud, just mentally. This engages your visual cortex and pulls resources away from the amygdala. Daniel's eyes moved around the office. Bookshelf. Window. Plant. Whiteboard. Clock. That's it. 30 seconds. Box breath with extended exhale. Chest press with interoception. Visual orienting. Daniel stood still for a moment. The tightness in his chest had loosened. His mind felt quieter. How do you feel? Dr. Brooks asked. Different, Daniel admitted. Clearer. That's your nervous system shifting from sympathetic dominance to parasympathetic. You just hit the brake pedal. Manually. In 30 seconds. Here's what separates elite performers from everyone else when it comes to acute stress management. Average people wait until they're in full crisis mode before trying to calm down. By then, it's too late. The amygdala has hijacked the system. Rational intervention becomes nearly impossible. Elite performers intervene early. They catch the first signs of stress escalation and immediately deploy their protocol. They never let the cascade reach the point of no return. Average. Wait until crisis, then try to calm down. Result. Fighting a losing battle. Elite. Intervene at first sign, prevent crisis entirely. Result. Maintain clarity throughout. Dr. Brooks put it this way to Daniel. You don't wait until a fire has engulfed the building to call the fire department. You respond at the first sign of smoke. Your stress response works the same way. Daniel had been waiting until his house was burning. From now on, he would respond to smoke. Let me show you why each component of the rapid reset works. Part 1. Extended exhale breathing. Research from Stanford University's neuroscience department, published in 2023, identified a specific cluster of neurons in the brainstem called the pre-Botzinger complex. These neurons control the rhythm of breathing. The study found that different breathing patterns activate different neural pathways. Specifically, exhales that are longer than inhales activate neurons connected to the parasympathetic nervous system. The ratio matters. A 6-second exhale creates significantly more calming effect than a 4-second exhale. This isn't relaxation through distraction. It's a direct physiological override. You're sending a signal through your breath that tells your brain, the threat has passed. Return to baseline. Part 2. Chest pressure and interoception. The HeartMath Institute has conducted extensive research on heart-brain communication. Their findings, replicated across multiple studies since 1991, show that gentle pressure on the chest area stimulates baroreceptors, pressure sensors that influence vagal activity. Combined with interoceptive awareness, focusing on feeling your heartbeat, this creates a powerful anchoring effect. Your attention shifts from future-focused anxiety to present-moment sensation. The brain's default mode network, which generates rumination and worry, quiets down. Part 3. Visual orienting. Dr. Peter Levine, developer of somatic experiencing therapy, has documented the power of orienting responses for decades. When you slowly scan your environment and name what you see, you engage the ventral vagal complex, the most evolved part of your parasympathetic system. This signals safety to your brain through an ancient mechanism. Predators require fixed, focused attention. When you can leisurely scan your environment, your nervous system interprets this as no immediate threat. We can relax. Free components, free mechanisms, all working together in 30 seconds to shift your entire physiological state. For weeks after learning the rapid reset, Daniel faced another presentation. Same conference room, same executives, same CEO who had asked the question that broke him last time. But Daniel was different. He arrived 15 minutes early, sat alone in the room, ran through the rapid reset 3 times. 4-4-6 breathing, chest press with interoception, visual orienting around the room. By the time executives filed in, Daniel's nervous system was primed. Not suppressed, not forced, genuinely regulated. The presentation began. Daniel's voice was steady. His thoughts were clear. He moved through slides with a fluidity he'd never experienced before. Then the CEO spoke up. The same CEO. A challenging question about projected timelines. Daniel felt it. The first whisper of panic. Heart rate ticking up. A slight narrowing of vision. But this time, he had a system. While maintaining eye contact with the CEO, Daniel took one slow breath. 4 in, 4 hold, 6 out. His hand rested casually on his chest, pressing lightly. He let his peripheral vision soften, taking in the whole room. 7 seconds. Invisible to everyone watching. The panic receded. His mind cleared. The answer emerged. Daniel spoke with calm authority. Not rushed. Not defensive. Just clear. After the meeting, the CEO approached him. That was the best presentation I've seen from your team in 2 years. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Daniel walked to his car. No shaking. No spiraling. Just a quiet sense of something new. He sat for a moment before starting the engine. Not in despair this time. In gratitude. 30 seconds. Everything had changed. Here's another critical distinction. Average people treat stress management as something they do after work. They meditate in the morning, hoping it carries through the day. They exercise in the evening to burn off accumulated tension. This approach is like only brushing your teeth once a week and hoping it prevents cavities. Elite performers practice microregulation throughout the day. They use the rapid reset before meetings, during bathroom breaks, in elevators, in their cars before entering buildings. Average, stress management is a separate activity. Result, unregulated during actual stressful moments. Elite, stress management is embedded in every high-stakes moment. Result, real-time regulation when it matters. Dr. Brooks calls this tactical recovery. Not waiting for formal recovery periods, but inserting brief resets throughout the day. Your nervous system doesn't care about your scheduled meditation time, she told Daniel. It cares about what you do in the moments when pressure arrives. That's where the training counts. Daniel now uses the rapid reset before every significant meeting, every difficult conversation, every moment when he feels the first signal of stress escalation. 30 seconds at a time, he's building a new neural superhighway. Let me give you the complete rapid reset so you can start using it today. Do this with me right now. Step 1. Extended exhale breathing, 10 seconds. Inhale through your nose for 4 seconds. Feel your belly expand. Hold for 4 seconds. Not tense, just paused. Exhale through your mouth for 6 seconds. Slow and controlled. Feel your shoulders drop. That's 1 cycle. In high-stress moments, 1 cycle is often enough. For deeper reset, do 2 or 3 cycles. Step 2. Chest press with interoception, 10 seconds. Place your palm flat on the center of your chest. Press gently but firmly. Feel the pressure against your sternum. Focus on your heartbeat. Don't try to change it. Just notice it. Take 1 more slow breath while maintaining the pressure. Step 3. Visual orienting, 10 seconds. Without moving your head quickly, let your eyes slowly scan your environment. Name 5 things you see. Silently, internally. Notice colors, shapes, textures. Engage your visual cortex fully. Let your peripheral vision soften and expand. Complete. Total time, 30 seconds. Faster with practice. Some elite performers can complete it in 15. The key is consistency. Use this protocol before any high-pressure moment. Not during the moment itself, but in the minute before. Preparation is regulation. If you're already in a stress response, the protocol still works, but requires more repetitions. Run through it 2 or 3 times until you feel the shift. Practice this daily, even when you're not stressed. Build the neural pathway so it's automatic when you need it. This is who you are now. You are someone with a 30-second protocol for pressure. You don't face high-stakes moments unprepared. You don't let stress responses run unchecked. You intervene early. You reset fast. You maintain clarity when others lose theirs. This isn't about being superhuman. It's about having a system. A reliable, practiced, neurologically sound system that works. Daniel thought he was broken. He wasn't. He was just untrained. Now he has a tool that works every time, in every situation, regardless of how high the stakes climb. You have the same tool now. Say this out loud. I have a 30-second protocol. I reset my nervous system on command. Pressure is no longer my enemy. This is your new reality. The rapid reset works beautifully for anticipated pressure. Presentations, meetings, performances, moments you can see coming. But what about the pressure you can't predict? The crisis that erupts without warning. The confrontation that ambushes you. The chaos that arrives uninvited and demands immediate response. Daniel learned the rapid reset. But his biggest test wasn't a scheduled presentation. It was a Thursday afternoon when everything exploded. A product failure, an angry board, a media firestorm, and Daniel in the center of it all, with no time to prepare, no minute to reset, and every eye in the company watching to see if he would break. In the next chapter, you'll learn what Dr. Brooks calls the chaos protocol, the real-time regulation system that works when you have no warning, no preparation, and no room for error. Daniel's story reaches its climax, and the techniques you'll learn are what separate good performers from truly unshakable ones. Stay with me. This is where calm becomes a superpower. Chapter 5. Mastering the moment of chaos. The moments that define your career give you zero warning. Research from the Center for Creative Leadership analyzed over 3,000 executive careers. Their finding: 73% of career-defining moments were completely unplanned. No preparation time, no advance notice. Just sudden, high-stakes chaos demanding immediate response. This is the test that separates true performers from those who merely prepared well. Because anyone can stay calm when they see pressure coming. The real question is, what happens when chaos arrives uninvited? Daniel Cole was about to find out. It was a Thursday afternoon, 2:47 p.m. Daniel was reviewing quarterly projections when his phone erupted. 3 calls simultaneously. His assistant rushed in, face pale. There's a problem. A big one. The product his team had launched 6 weeks ago, the one that had earned him praise from the CEO, had a critical flaw. A security vulnerability. User data exposed. Thousands of accounts potentially compromised. Within minutes, Daniel was in an emergency meeting. The chief security officer, the general counsel, the VP of communications, and the CEO, face hard as granite. How did this happen? The CEO's voice was ice. All eyes turned to Daniel. This was different from a presentation. There was no script, no slides, no prepared remarks. Just raw, unfiltered crisis demanding immediate answers. Daniel felt the familiar cascade begin. Heart rate spiking, breath shortening, the edges of his vision starting to narrow. But something was different this time. He had trained for this. 3 months earlier, Dr. Elena Brooks had warned Daniel about this exact scenario. The rapid reset is your foundation, she had said. But life doesn't always give you 30 seconds. Sometimes you have 3. Sometimes you have none. You need a protocol for when chaos strikes without warning. She called it the chaos protocol, and she had drilled it into Daniel until it became automatic. The chaos protocol operates on a different principle than the rapid reset. It doesn't try to fully regulate your nervous system. That's impossible in the middle of active crisis. Instead, it creates what Dr. Brooks called functional regulation. Enough calm to think clearly. Enough control to respond effectively. Not perfect peace, but operational stability. In chaos, she explained, you're not trying to feel calm. You're trying to function calm. There's a difference. Feeling comes later. Function comes now. The protocol has 3 components, each designed to work in real time, under fire, with no break in engagement. Component 1, anchor breath. A single breath, taken while maintaining eye contact and engagement. Inhale for 2 seconds, Exhale for 4. Not obvious to observers. Not a pause in conversation. Just one deliberate breath cycle that signals your nervous system to begin downregulating. Component 2. Physical anchor. A subtle physical action that grounds you in your body. Dr. Brooks taught Daniel to press his thumb firmly into his index finger. Hidden, unnoticeable, but the pressure creates a somatic anchor, pulling attention into the body and out of spiraling thoughts. Component 3. Mental anchor. A single phrase, repeated internally, that redirects the mind. Not positive thinking, not affirmation. A functional directive. Daniel's phrase was present, clear, capable. 3 words, 3 anchors, executed simultaneously in 3 seconds or less. This was what Daniel activated as the CEO's question hung in the air. How did this happen? The question demanded an answer. Now, Daniel took 1 anchor breath. 2 seconds in, 4 out. His thumb pressed into his index finger under the table. 3 words cycled through his mind. Present, clear, capable. 3 seconds passed. To everyone in the room, it looked like Daniel was gathering his thoughts. Normal, expected. Inside Daniel, a different process was unfolding. The panic that had started to rise met resistance. Not elimination. Resistance. Enough to keep his prefrontal cortex online. Enough to access his training. He spoke. The vulnerability was in a third-party integration we deployed with the launch. We tested it against our standard security protocols, but this specific exploit wasn't covered. I take full responsibility for the oversight. His voice was steady, not artificially calm, not robotic, just controlled. The CEO's eyes narrowed. What's the fix? Daniel felt another wave of stress. He didn't have a complete answer. The technical team was still assessing, but admitting uncertainty in this room felt dangerous. Anchor breath, thumb press, present, clear, capable. Our security team is running a full assessment now. I'll have preliminary containment options within the hour and a complete remediation plan by end of day. I'd like to bring our chief security officer into this conversation to outline immediate steps. He redirected to the CSO, bought himself time, maintained composure. The meeting continued for 45 minutes. Hard questions, tense moments, multiple points where Daniel felt the stress cascade trying to overwhelm him. Each time, he returned to the protocol. Anchor breath, thumb press, present, clear, capable. He didn't feel calm, but he functioned calm. And in crisis, function is what matters. Let me explain what was happening in Daniel's brain during that meeting. Under acute stress, your amygdala initiates what neuroscientists call the threat response cascade. Stress hormones flood your system. Your prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive function, begins to shut down. Your working memory capacity shrinks. Complex thinking becomes nearly impossible. This cascade is not instantaneous. Research from New York University's neuroscience department, published in 2020, mapped the precise timeline. From initial threat perception to full amygdala hijack takes between 60 and 90 seconds in most individuals. But here's the critical insight. The cascade can be interrupted at any point, even once it's started, even in the middle of crisis. Dr. Amy Aronson at Yale School of Medicine has studied prefrontal cortex function under stress for over 30 years. Her research demonstrates that brief regulatory interventions, even as short as 2 to 3 seconds, can partially restore prefrontal function. Not fully, not permanently, but enough. The anchor breath activates the parasympathetic nervous system just enough to slow the stress cascade. The physical anchor, pressing thumb to finger, engages the somatosensory cortex, pulling neural resources away from the amygdala. The mental anchor, the 3-word phrase, gives the prefrontal cortex something to do, preventing it from generating catastrophic thoughts. None of these individually stops the stress response, but together, executed rapidly and repeatedly, they create windows of clarity within the chaos. Dr. Brooks described it this way: you're not stopping the storm. You're creating pockets of calm within it. Small spaces where you can think, decide, and act. Then you move to the next pocket. This is functional regulation. Not feeling calm, functioning calm. Here's what separates elite performers in crisis situations. Average people try to suppress the stress response entirely. They clench their jaw, white-knuckle through the moment, and hope they don't break. This approach exhausts mental resources rapidly. The longer the crisis continues, the worse they perform. Elite performers accept that stress will be present. They don't fight it. They work alongside it. They use micro-interventions to create functional windows, then execute within those windows. Average, try to eliminate stress. Result, exhaustion and eventual breakdown. Elite, manage stress in real time. Result, sustained performance throughout crisis. The difference is expectation. Average performers expect to feel calm before they can perform. Elite performers expect to feel stressed and perform anyway. Daniel had spent his career trying to eliminate stress before performing. It never worked. Now he understood stress would be present. His job was to function despite it, to create pocket after pocket of clarity, to stay operational when everything in him wanted to shut down. The crisis meeting ended at 4:30 p.m. Daniel walked to his office, closed the door, sat down. Now the shaking came. His hands trembled. His heart pounded. Sweat soaked through his shirt. This was normal, expected. The stress response he had held at bay demanded release. Dr. Brooks had prepared him for this too. After a crisis, she had explained, your nervous system needs to complete the stress cycle. If you suppress this, the stress gets stored in your body. It accumulates. Eventually, it breaks you. She taught him the completion protocol, a way to discharge accumulated stress after the acute moment has passed. Daniel stood, shook his arms and legs vigorously, jumped up and down several times. Let his body do what it had wanted to do during the meeting. Move, fight, flee. 30 seconds of physical discharge. Ridiculous looking, completely effective. Then he sat again. 3 full rapid resets. Extended exhale breathing. Chest press with interoception. Visual orienting. Within 5 minutes, his nervous system had returned to baseline. The trembling stopped. His mind cleared. He pulled up his laptop and began writing the remediation plan. The crisis wasn't over. But Daniel was no longer in survival mode. He was in problem-solving mode. Exactly where he needed to be. This is a crucial piece most people miss. Your stress response is designed to be temporary, acute, a sprint, not a marathon. When a threat appears, your body mobilizes energy for action. Fight or flee. Once the threat passes, that energy needs to discharge. In ancestral environments, this happened naturally. You ran from the predator. You fought the enemy. Physical action completed the cycle. In modern environments, stress rarely involves physical action. You sit in meetings. You receive difficult emails. You navigate social threats while staying perfectly still. The energy mobilizes but never discharges. It stays trapped in your body. Accumulated stress. Chronic tension. The feeling of being wound up with no release. Research from Dr. Peter Levine at the Somatic Experiencing Trauma Institute has documented this phenomenon extensively. His work with trauma survivors revealed that incomplete stress cycles create persistent physiological dysregulation. The solution is deliberate completion. After any high-stress event, you must give your body permission to discharge. Physical movement, shaking, jumping, even just tensing and releasing major muscle groups. This signals to your nervous system, the threat has passed. We survived. Return to baseline. Daniel learned to build completion rituals into his day. After difficult meetings, a brief walk. After tense phone calls, 30 seconds of physical shaking in a bathroom stall. After major crises, a full completion protocol followed by the rapid reset. This isn't weakness. This is maintenance. Elite performers understand that stress management doesn't end when the stressful moment ends. The cycle must be completed or the cost accumulates. Here's another distinction. Average people carry their stress from one moment to the next. They finish a difficult meeting and immediately jump into the next task. They end a stressful day and bring that stress home. They never complete the cycle, never discharge the accumulated energy. Over time, this creates chronic stress load. Baseline anxiety rises. Sleep deteriorates. Small stressors trigger large responses. The nervous system forgets what baseline feels like. Elite performers ritualize completion. They create deliberate transitions between stressful moments. They understand that recovery is not passive, it's active. It requires specific actions. Average: accumulate stress without discharge. Result: chronic overload. Elite: complete stress cycles deliberately. Result: clean baseline, ready for next challenge. Dr. Brooks was emphatic about this with Daniel. Every stressful event needs a beginning, middle, and end. Most people do the beginning and middle, then rush to the next thing. They skip the end. That's where the damage happens. Daniel now treats completion as non-negotiable. It's not optional recovery time. It's required maintenance for peak performance. Let me give you the complete system. Part 1. The real-time protocol during crisis. When chaos arrives without warning, execute these 3 anchors simultaneously. Anchor breath: 1 cycle. 2 seconds inhale, 4 seconds exhale. Maintain eye contact and engagement. This is invisible to others. Physical anchor: press thumb firmly into index finger. Hold the pressure throughout the stressful moment. This grounds you in your body. Mental anchor: repeat internally. Present, clear, capable. Or choose your own 3-word phrase. Make it functional, not emotional. Execute these every time you feel the stress cascade rising. In a 45-minute crisis meeting, you might use them 20 times. That's fine. That's the point. Part 2. The completion protocol after crisis. Once the acute moment passes, complete the stress cycle. Physical discharge: 30 seconds of vigorous movement. Shake your arms and legs. Jump. Do quick push-ups. Let your body release the mobilized energy. Nervous system reset: 3 full rapid reset cycles. Extended exhale breathing. Chest press with interoception, visual orienting. Transition ritual: before moving to the next task, pause. Take 3 normal breaths. Consciously release the previous event. Set an intention for the next. Part 3. Daily maintenance. Build completion rituals throughout your day. After every meeting, brief walk or 30 seconds of physical movement. After every difficult conversation, rapid reset. End of workday, full completion protocol before transitioning to personal time. This system prevents stress accumulation. It keeps your baseline clean. It ensures that today's pressure doesn't become tomorrow's chronic load. Here's who you're becoming. You are someone who performs under pressure, not despite the pressure, but through it. You don't wait for calm to arrive. You create functional calm in the middle of chaos. You use anchors, protocols, and systems that work when nothing else does. The crisis that would break others becomes your proving ground. The chaos that would scatter minds becomes your opportunity to demonstrate mastery. You are not the person who crumbles when things get hard. You are the person who gets clearer, sharper, more focused when stakes are highest. Say this: I function calm in chaos. I complete my stress cycles. Pressure reveals my training. This is your identity now. Chaos tested. Pressure proven. Daniel mastered crisis. But there was someone on his team who faced a different enemy. An enemy that didn't arrive in board meetings or emergency calls. An enemy that attacked at 2 a.m., in the shower, on the commute to work, in every quiet moment when the mind had nothing else to do. Ava Turner's battle wasn't with external pressure. It was with internal noise. The endless loop of what-ifs. The constant replay of conversations. The voice that wouldn't stop pointing out everything she'd done wrong. Overthinking, the silent killer of performance and peace. In the next chapter, you'll discover why traditional advice about overthinking is backwards, why trying to stop thoughts makes them stronger, and the counterintuitive protocol that finally gave Ava silence. If your mind won't shut off, if you replay and rehearse and ruminate until exhaustion, the next chapter was written for you. Stay with me. Freedom from your own mind is closer than you think. Chapter 6. The Overthinking Trap. Your brain generates 60,000 thoughts per day. 95% of them are the same thoughts you had yesterday. This finding comes from the National Science Foundation's Cognitive Research Division, and it reveals something disturbing about how most people live. You are not thinking. You are repeating, running the same mental loops, day after day, convinced each cycle is productive. It's not. Overthinking doesn't solve problems. It creates them. It doesn't prepare you for pressure. It exhausts you before pressure arrives. And if no one has told you how to stop it, that ends now. Ava Turner lay in bed at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling. Her shift had ended 4 hours ago. She had showered, eaten, done everything right. But sleep wouldn't come. Her mind was on fire. Did I chart that medication correctly? I think I did. But what if I didn't? What if the night nurse gives the wrong dose because of my error? What if the patient has a reaction? She reached for her phone, considered calling the hospital to double-check. It would be the third time this week she'd called after hours. No, she put the phone down. This is crazy. I checked it 3 times. It's fine. But the thoughts wouldn't stop. What about that conversation with Dr. Harrison? He seemed annoyed when I asked about the test results. Did I overstep? Does he think I'm incompetent? Should I apologize tomorrow? Ava replayed the conversation. His tone, his facial expression, the words he used. Looking for evidence of disapproval. Finding it everywhere. She tried to stop, told herself to stop, commanded her brain to think about something else. It didn't work. It never worked. By the time her alarm rang at 6 a.m., Ava had slept 2 hours. She dragged herself to the hospital, exhausted before her shift began, her mind already rehearsing everything that could go wrong. This had been Ava's life for 3 years. Every night, the same loop. Every morning, the same exhaustion. Every day, performing at half capacity because her brain had run a marathon while her body tried to rest. She wasn't anxious about real threats. She was anxious about imaginary ones. Threats her mind manufactured and then presented as emergencies requiring immediate mental attention. Ava was trapped in her own head, and she didn't know the door was unlocked. Let me show you what was happening in Ava's brain. Rumination is the clinical term for repetitive negative thinking. It's different from problem solving, though it disguises itself as productive thought. Dr. Susan Nolan Hoeksema at Yale University spent 20 years studying rumination before her passing. Her research, spanning thousands of participants, revealed something crucial. Rumination doesn't lead to solutions. It leads to more rumination. When you replay a problem in your mind, you're not analyzing it. You're strengthening the neural pathway associated with that problem. Each repetition makes the thought more automatic, more intrusive, more difficult to escape. Brain imaging studies from Stanford Psychology Department, published in 2019, showed that chronic ruminators have hyperactive default mode networks. This is the brain region that activates when you're not focused on external tasks. In healthy individuals, the default mode network is active but regulated. In chronic overthinkers, it runs wild. The result is a brain that never rests. Even during sleep, the default mode network continues generating thoughts, rehearsing scenarios, scanning for threats. You wake up exhausted because your brain worked all night. Here's the cruel irony. Overthinking feels productive. Your brain tells you, this is important. You need to figure this out. Just think about it a little more and you'll find the answer. This is a lie. A seductive, convincing lie that keeps you trapped in the loop. Ava believed she was being responsible, thorough, careful. She thought her nightly reviews were protecting her patients. In reality, they were destroying her capacity to care for them. Here's what Ava tried. What you've probably tried too. Just stop thinking about it. This is the most common advice for overthinking. It's also the worst. Remember the white bear study from Chapter 2? When researchers asked participants not to think about a white bear, they thought about it more frequently than the control group. The instruction to suppress created obsession. The same principle applies to overthinking. When you tell yourself to stop thinking about something, you activate a mental process called ironic monitoring. Your brain creates a background program that continuously checks. Am I still thinking about that thing I'm not supposed to think about? Every check brings the thought back. Every attempt at suppression strengthens the very thought you're trying to eliminate. Ava had years of experience with this phenomenon. Every night, she would tell herself to stop. Every night, the thoughts intensified. She interpreted this as failure, weakness, proof that her mind was defective. It wasn't. Her mind was functioning exactly as designed. She was just using the wrong approach. The solution to overthinking is not stopping thoughts. It's changing your relationship with them. Here's what separates those who escape the overthinking trap from those who remain imprisoned. Average people try to control the content of their thoughts. They engage with each thought, arguing with it, analyzing it, trying to resolve it. This is like trying to empty the ocean with a bucket. More waves always come. Elite performers shift focus from content to process. They don't engage with individual thoughts. They recognize the pattern of overthinking itself and interrupt the process. Average, fight each thought individually. Result, exhaustion, more thoughts. Elite, interrupt the pattern, not the thought. Result, mental quiet returns. Dr. Brooks explained it to Ava this way. Your thoughts are not the problem. Thinking about your thoughts is the problem. You're adding a second layer, thoughts about thoughts. That's where the loop forms. Ava had been fighting her thoughts for years. Each fight exhausted her and produced more thoughts to fight. She was at war with her own mind, and her mind always had more ammunition. The answer wasn't winning the war. It was ending it. Dr. Brooks introduced Ava to a technique that seemed too simple to work. When you notice yourself ruminating, she said, I want you to do something physical. Immediately, without engaging with the thought first. Ava frowned. Like what? Snap a rubber band on your wrist. Stand up and do 5 jumping jacks. Splash cold water on your face. The specific action doesn't matter. What matters is that you interrupt the mental loop with physical action before your brain can complete another cycle. This is called a pattern interrupt, and it's based on solid neuroscience. When you're caught in rumination, your brain is running an automated program, neural pathway firing on autopilot. The program loops back on itself, creating the sense that you can't escape. But automated programs can be interrupted. A sudden physical stimulus forces your brain to shift attention. It breaks the loop mid-cycle, creates a gap. In that gap, you can redirect. Research from the University of Pennsylvania's Positive Psychology Center, published in 2021, tested various pattern interrupt techniques with chronic ruminators. The study found that physical pattern interrupts reduced rumination duration by 63% on average. 63%, just from interrupting the loop before it completes. Dr. Brooks gave Ava a rubber band to wear on her wrist. Every time you catch yourself spiraling, snap it. Not hard enough to hurt, just enough to break the pattern. Then immediately redirect your attention to something external, something you can see, hear, or touch. Ava was skeptical. She'd tried complex therapeutic techniques, journaling, meditation, cognitive restructuring. None had worked. How could a rubber band succeed where everything else had failed? 2 days later, Ava lay in bed at midnight. The loop had started. Did I make a mistake? What if something goes wrong? What if they discover I'm not good enough? She caught herself, recognized the pattern. Instead of engaging, she snapped the rubber band on her wrist. The sharp sensation broke her train of thought, a microsecond of blank space. In that space, she did what Dr. Brooks had instructed. She directed her attention externally, focused on the feeling of her sheets, the sound of the heater, the faint light coming through the window. The thoughts tried to return. She snapped the band again, redirected again. For 20 minutes, she battled. Snap, redirect, return, snap, redirect. It felt clumsy, mechanical, artificial. Then something shifted. The thoughts lost their urgency. They were still there, but quieter, less demanding, like a television playing in another room instead of screaming in her face. She fell asleep at 12:45 a.m., earlier than any night in recent memory. The next morning, Ava felt something she hadn't felt in years, rested. Pattern interrupts break the loop. But to keep the loop from reforming, you need something more. This is where mental scripts come in. A mental script is a pre-planned thought sequence you deploy when you feel rumination starting. Instead of letting your brain generate its own thoughts, you give it a script to follow. Dr. Brooks taught Ava a specific script called the 3 questions. Whenever she noticed herself starting to ruminate, she would interrupt the pattern, then ask herself 3 questions. Question 1. Is this thought about something I can control right now? If no, the script continues. Then there is no action to take. Thinking about it changes nothing. If yes, question 2. What is the single next action I could take? Not the complete solution, not the entire plan, Just the single next step. Question 3. When will I take that action? A specific time. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. After my shift. Right now? That's it. 3 questions. A decision framework that either leads to action or releases the thought. Ava practiced this script dozens of times. At first, it felt forced, but repetition built the neural pathway. Eventually, the script became automatic. Now, when a worry arises, Ava's brain runs the script without conscious effort. Can I control this? If not, release. If yes, what's the next action? When will I do it? The script prevents rumination from forming because it requires resolution. You either take action or you release. There's no third option where you just keep circling. Here's another crucial distinction. Average overthinkers treat all thoughts as equally important. Every worry gets full attention. Every what if gets careful analysis. They operate as if thinking about something is the same as doing something about it. Elite performers triage their thoughts ruthlessly. They recognize that most thoughts don't deserve engagement. They use scripts and frameworks to quickly sort thoughts into 2 categories: actionable and releasable. Average: all thoughts deserve attention. Result: mental overload, exhaustion. Elite: most thoughts are noise. Result: mental clarity, energy preserved. Dr. Brooks put it bluntly to Ava: your brain is not your friend when it comes to threat detection. It's paranoid by design. It will generate 100 false alarms for every real threat. Your job is not to investigate every alarm. It's to identify which ones require action and ignore the rest. This was revolutionary for Ava. She had treated her worried thoughts as important signals, messages that required response. Now she saw them differently. Most were noise, static, her brain doing what brains do, scanning for threats that usually don't exist. She didn't have to engage with every thought. She could acknowledge it, run the 3 questions, and release it if no action was possible. The most vicious rumination happens at night. When your body needs rest, your mind decides to review every mistake you've ever made. Dr. Brooks gave Ava a specific protocol for nighttime overthinking. Your brain ruminates at night because it doesn't feel safe, she explained. During the day, you're busy, distracted. At night, the guard comes down. Your brain decides it's time to process all the threats it's been stockpiling. The solution isn't fighting this process. It's completing it before bed. Dr. Brooks prescribed what she called the worry dump. 30 minutes before intended sleep time, Ava would sit with a notebook and write down every worry in her mind. Not analysis, not solutions, just a list. Patient medication timing, Dr. Harrison's reaction, rent payment due, sister's birthday gift. Everything, every concern, large or small, transferred from brain to paper. Then, for each item, she would write one of 2 things. Tomorrow at specific time, I will address this. Or, this is outside my control. I release it. That's the entire protocol. Dump, categorize, assign, or release. The neuroscience is straightforward. When thoughts stay in your head, your brain treats them as open loops. Unfinished business requiring continued attention. By writing them down and assigning a future time, you close the loop. You give your brain permission to stop tracking. Research from Baylor University's psychology department, published in 2018, found that participants who wrote to-do lists before bed fell asleep an average of 9 minutes faster than those who didn't. 9 minutes might seem small, but for chronic overthinkers, it's the difference between 2 a.m. and midnight. Ava began the worry dump protocol the next night. The first attempt took 40 minutes. She had years of accumulated concerns her brain had been tracking. But by the 3rd night, it took 15 minutes. By the 2nd week, 10. And the quality of her sleep transformed. 3 months into her work with Dr. Brooks, Ava received news that would have previously sent her spiraling for days. A patient she had cared for had experienced a complication. Not her fault, not preventable, but the kind of event that used to trigger weeks of rumination. The old Ava would have replayed every interaction, searched for what she could have done differently, tortured herself with what-ifs until exhaustion. The new Ava felt the familiar pull, the thoughts trying to form, the loop preparing to activate. She snapped the rubber band, ran the 3 questions. Is this within my control? The complication happened. No. Is there any action I can take? I can review the case for learning. Yes. When? Tomorrow morning before my shift. Done. The rumination tried to restart. She pattern interrupted again. Redirected. By that evening, she had moved on. Not through suppression. Not through denial. Through a system that processed the concern and released it. She slept 7 hours that night. The next morning, she reviewed the case. Learned what she could. Then returned to her patients with full presence and energy. This is what freedom from overthinking looks like. Not an empty mind. Not the absence of concerns. But a mind that processes concerns efficiently and moves forward. Here is the complete overthinking system. Use it starting tonight. Pattern interrupt. Wear a rubber band on your wrist. When you notice rumination beginning, snap it and immediately redirect attention to something external. What you see, hear, or physically feel. 3-question script. After interrupting, ask, can I control this now? If no, release it. If yes, what's the single next action? When will I take it? Then move on. Worry dump protocol. Before bed, 30 minutes before sleep, write every worry on paper. For each, write either a specific time you'll address it, or outside my control. Released. Close the notebook. The items are stored externally. Your brain can rest. Emergency protocol. Middle of night, if you wake up ruminating, don't stay in bed fighting thoughts. Get up. Go to another room. Do a brief worry dump. Return to bed only when the loop is broken. Practice these techniques daily, not just when you're overwhelmed. Build the neural pathways so they're automatic when you need them. This is who you are now. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness that observes thoughts. You have the power to engage or release, to action or ignore, to feed the loop or starve it. Your mind is a tool, a powerful, sometimes overactive tool, but you are the one who directs it, not the other way around. The endless loop that stole your sleep, your energy, your peace, you now have the combination to escape. Pattern interrupt. 3 questions. Worry dump. Repeat until free. Say this with me. I am not my thoughts. I process and release. My mind serves me, not the reverse. This is your liberation. Not someday. Tonight. Ava conquered the overthinking trap. Daniel mastered chaos. Both transformed their relationship with pressure. But there was still Marcus. Marcus had learned the reset protocol. His nervous system was regulated. But something deeper still haunted him. Every time he stepped onto the court for a high-stakes game, a ghost appeared. The memory of that missed shot. That moment of failure 3 years ago. He wasn't just nervous. He was terrified. Terrified of proving that his worst fear was true, that he wasn't good enough, that his success was luck, that one day, everyone would see him for what he really was. In the next chapter, you'll learn about the hidden controller that sabotages more careers than any lack of skill, the fear of failure. And you'll discover the counterintuitive reframe that finally set Marcus free to play without the weight of his past crushing every big moment. If you've ever choked because you were afraid of proving your worst beliefs about yourself true, the next chapter will change everything. Stay with me. Liberation from fear is 1 chapter away. Chapter 7. Fear of failure, the hidden controller. The most successful people in the world share a secret fear. Research from the International Journal of Behavioral Science reveals that 70% of high achievers experience imposter syndrome at some point in their careers. 70%. CEOs, athletes, surgeons, artists. People at the absolute top of their fields, convinced they're frauds about to be exposed. This fear doesn't diminish with success. It grows. Every achievement raises the stakes. Every win increases the pressure to prove it wasn't luck. Every victory brings the terrifying question closer. What if next time I finally fail? This is the hidden controller. And until you defeat it, it owns you. Marcus Reed had a secret he'd never told anyone. Not his coach, not his teammates, not even his therapist before Dr. Brooks. The secret wasn't the missed shot 3 years ago. Everyone knew about that. It was on highlight reels. Sports analysts still discussed it. The secret was what Marcus believed that misproved. Sitting in Dr. Brooks's office, 8 months into their work together, Marcus finally said it out loud. I think I'm a fraud. Dr. Brooks didn't react, just waited. All those years, Marcus continued, voice tight. All those made shots. All those wins. I think they were luck. And that miss, in the conference finals, that was the truth. That's who I really am. A guy who chokes when it matters. He stared at the floor. Every game since then, I feel like I'm waiting to be found out. Like everyone's going to finally see that I don't belong here. This is imposter syndrome in its purest form. The belief that your achievements are accidents and your failures are revelations. That success is borrowed time before the world discovers you're not who they think you are. Marcus had learned a reset protocol. He could regulate his nervous system. But underneath the regulation, disbelief remained. A virus in his mental operating system, corrupting everything it touched. Dr. Brooks leaned forward. What if I told you that belief is based on a logical error? A mistake in reasoning that 70% of high achievers make. Marcus looked up. I'd say prove it. Dr. Brooks pulled out a notepad, drew 2 columns. Let's examine the evidence. Column 1, evidence that you're a fraud. Column 2, evidence that you're genuinely skilled. She handed Marcus the pen. Fill in column 1 first. Marcus wrote, the missed shot. Conference finals. Biggest moment of my career. Choked. He paused. Tried to think of more. The pen hovered. That's it. Dr. Brooks asked. That's the main thing. One event. One shot. One moment. Now fill in column 2. Marcus started writing. State championship in high school. Full scholarship to a Division I program. Drafted in the first round. 3 all-star selections. Career shooting percentage of 47%. Over 4,000 points scored. Hundreds of clutch shots made. The second column filled the page. Spilled onto a second page. Dr. Brooks pointed at the contrast. Column 1, one missed shot. Column 2, thousands of made shots. Yet your brain has concluded that column 1 reveals the truth and column 2 is luck. She let that land. This is confirmation bias in reverse. You're filtering all evidence through a predetermined belief. The belief, I'm not good enough. Everything that contradicts it gets dismissed as luck. Everything that confirms it becomes proof. Here's what happens in the brain when failure becomes identity. Dr. James McGaugh at the University of California, Irvine, has spent decades studying how emotional intensity affects memory formation. His research demonstrates that high-emotion events are encoded differently than ordinary experiences. When you experience a failure that feels catastrophic, your amygdala tags that memory as critically important. It gets stored with extra strength, extra vividness, extra access pathways. This is called flashbulb memory. You remember everything about that moment. The sounds, the sights, the physical sensations. But here's the distortion. Emotional memory isn't accurate memory. McGaugh's research shows that flashbulb memories are often wrong about peripheral details. We remember them as more significant than they actually were. Marcus's missed shot was encoded as a flashbulb memory. His brain treated it as a survival critical event. Meanwhile, his thousands of successful shots were encoded as ordinary memories. They faded naturally over time. The result? One failure looms larger than thousands of successes. Not because it's more representative, because it was encoded with more emotional weight. Your brain isn't giving you accurate data about your abilities, Dr. Brooks explained. It's giving you emotionally weighted data. The miss feels more true because it's stored more vividly. But feeling isn't reality. Here's the first distinction that separates elite performers from those trapped by fear. Average performers draw identity conclusions from single events. They take one failure and extrapolate it into a permanent truth about themselves. I missed that shot becomes I'm a choker. One rejection becomes I'm unlovable. Elite performers separate events from identity. They evaluate outcomes without letting those outcomes define who they are. They understand that any single event is a data point, not a verdict. Average, single event equals identity. Result, fragile self-concept, constant fear. Elite, event is data, not destiny. Result, stable self-concept, freedom to perform. This isn't positive thinking. It's accurate thinking. No single event, no matter how emotionally charged, is a reliable indicator of your fundamental worth or capability. Marcus had collapsed event and identity. The missed shot wasn't something that happened. It was proof of who he was. This collapse created a constant terror. Every big moment was another chance to confirm his fraudulence. The solution wasn't confidence. Confidence is fragile when it's based on outcomes. The solution was detachment, separating what you do from who you are. Dr. Brooks introduced Marcus to a concept that changed everything. "You've been playing for outcomes," she said. "Every game, every shot, is a test of your worth. Make it, you're good enough. Miss it, you're a fraud. Your identity is on the line every time you touch the ball." Marcus nodded slowly. That was exactly how it felt. This is an impossible way to perform. When your identity is at stake, your nervous system treats every moment as survival critical. She walked to her whiteboard and drew 2 boxes with a clear line between them. Box 1, outcomes. What happens in the external world? Made shots, missed shots, wins, losses. You have influence over outcomes, but not control. Box 2, identity. Who you are. Your worth as a person. Your fundamental value. This is non-negotiable. It doesn't fluctuate based on external events. She tapped the line between the boxes. Elite performers build a wall here. Outcomes stay in box 1. Identity stays in box 2. The wall prevents contamination. Marcus frowned. But how? How do you not take outcomes personally? Through deliberate practice. Through language. Through mental rituals that reinforce the separation. She gave him a specific technique. Before every game, say this phrase: "I am not my performance. My performance is something I do. My worth is something I am. Win or lose, I remain valuable. Win or lose, I belong here." Dr. Carol Dweck at Stanford University has spent 40 years studying this phenomenon. Her research on mindset reveals 2 fundamental orientations toward failure. Fixed mindset. Failure reveals inherent limitations. If you fail, it proves you lack ability. Ability is static. Growth mindset. Failure reveals growth opportunities. If you fail, it shows where development is needed. Ability is dynamic. People with fixed mindsets experience failure as identity threatening. Every setback is evidence of permanent inadequacy, so they avoid challenges. They don't try things they might fail at. They protect their self-image at the cost of their growth. People with growth mindsets experience failure as information. It stings, but it doesn't define. It shows where to improve, then they improve. They embrace challenges because challenges accelerate development. Marcus had a fixed mindset about pressure moments. One failure had become a permanent verdict. That missed shot, Dr. Brooks said, was data. It showed that in that specific situation, with that specific level of pressure, your nervous system needed more training. It wasn't evidence that you lack ability. It was evidence that you had room to grow. She paused. And you've been growing. 8 months of nervous system training. You're not the same player who missed that shot, but you've been carrying his identity. Here's the second distinction. Average performers see failure as evidence of inadequacy. Each setback confirms their worst fears. Elite performers see failure as tuition, the price of growth, the necessary investment for mastery. Average, failure proves I'm not enough. Result, avoidance, stagnation, fear. Elite, failure teaches me what's next. Result, engagement, growth, courage. Michael Jordan famously said, "I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. And that is why I succeed." He accumulated more failures than most players ever attempt. Each one was tuition for mastery. The transformation didn't happen overnight. Marcus repeated the identity statement every day. "I am not my performance. My worth is something I am. Win or lose, I belong here." At first, he didn't believe it. The words were hollow. His old programming fought back constantly. But he kept saying it. Dr. Brooks had warned him, "You're overriding years of conditioning. It takes repetition. Your brain will resist. Keep going anyway." He kept going. Gradually, something shifted. The words started to feel less foreign. The wall between outcomes and identity began to build. 3 months later, playoffs arrived. Game 7. Tied score. 12 seconds left. Marcus had the ball. The old terror arose. His heart pounded. His vision started to narrow. The voice whispered, "You're going to miss. You always miss when it matters." But this time, another voice answered, "I am not my performance. I belong here. This shot doesn't determine my worth. Nothing determines my worth." He ran the reset protocol. But more importantly, the stakes had changed. He wasn't playing to prove he was worthy. He was already worthy. This was just a basketball shot. Marcus took the shot. The ball left his hands with perfect rotation. Arc high and true. Swish. The crowd erupted. Teammates mobbed him. But the real victory was invisible. For the first time in 3 years, Marcus had taken a clutch shot without his identity on the line. He had played free. If he had missed, he would have been disappointed. But he wouldn't have been destroyed. Because missed or made, he was still Marcus Reed. Still worthy. Still belonging. That was the liberation. Here is the complete fear of failure system. Daily identity statement. Say every morning and before high-stakes situations, "I am not my performance. My worth is something I am. Win or lose, I remain valuable. Win or lose, I belong here." Evidence rebalancing. When imposter syndrome strikes, draw 2 columns. Evidence of fraudulence versus evidence of competence. Fill both honestly. Watch how confirmation bias has been distorting your self-perception. Failure reframe. After any setback, ask, "What is this teaching me? What skill gap did this reveal? What's my next development step?" Transform failure from verdict to tuition. Outcome identity wall. Before any performance, mentally visualize a wall between what you're about to do and who you are. Outcomes on one side, your worth on the other. Nothing crosses the wall. Post-event processing. After successes and failures alike, consciously separate the event from your identity. Say, "That happened. It doesn't change who I am." Your worth is not earned through performance. It is not lost through failure. It is intrinsic. When you truly understand this, fear of failure loses its power. Say this, "My worth is not on the line. It never was. I perform from worthiness, not for it." This is freedom. This is where elite performance lives. Chapter 8. Building Unshakable Mental Clarity. The Navy SEALs have a saying, "Under pressure, you don't rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your training." This principle reveals an uncomfortable truth. When stress hits, you don't access your best self. You access your most practiced self. If calm is something you achieve through effort, you'll lose it when effort runs out. But if calm is something you've trained into your baseline, it stays when everything else falls apart. This is the difference between managing pressure and becoming unshakable. 6 months after beginning their work with Dr. Brooks, something unprecedented happened. Daniel, Ava, and Marcus met for the first time. Dr. Brooks had arranged it. A Saturday morning in her office. 3 people from different worlds, different professions, united by a common journey. Daniel arrived first. Calm, confident, nothing like the man who had trembled in his car after a failed presentation. Ava came next. The exhausted, insomniac nurse had been replaced by someone present. Alert, rested. Marcus entered last. The fear that had shadowed his movements was gone. He walked like someone who had nothing to prove. "Each of you came to me broken in different ways," Dr. Brooks said. "You've all transformed. You've learned protocols. You've rewired neural pathways." She leaned forward. "But here's the question. What happens when you stop practicing? What happens when life gets busy and the protocols slip?" The 3 exchanged glances. They'd all wondered this privately. This is the final level. Building a foundation so solid that calm becomes your default. Not something you achieve. Something you are. Dr. Brooks walked to her whiteboard. "Everything you've learned so far is reactive. Something happens, you respond with a protocol. This works, but it has limitations." She drew a horizontal line. "This is your baseline. Your default state when nothing is demanding your attention. For most people, this baseline is slightly anxious. They're starting every day at 60% capacity. Pressure pushes them over the edge faster." She drew a new, lower baseline. "This is what we're building now. A lower baseline. A calmer default. More room between your resting state and your breaking point." She wrote 3 words on the board: input, process, recovery. These are the 3 pillars of an unshakable baseline. Master all 3, and calm stops being something you do. It becomes something you are. Dr. Brooks pointed to the first word. Input is everything that enters your nervous system. Information, stimulation, interactions, environment. Most people have no awareness of their inputs. They consume whatever arrives and wonder why they feel overwhelmed. Research from the University of California, San Diego, calculated that the average American consumes approximately 34 gigabytes of information daily, 5 times more than in 1986. Your nervous system wasn't designed for this volume. The first step to lowering your baseline is curating your inputs. She outlined specific practices. Morning input protocol. The first hour after waking is when your brain is most impressionable. No phone, no news, no email. Protect this hour with absolute discipline. Information diet. Limit news consumption to once daily, preferably in written form. Video news is designed to trigger threat responses. Environment audit. Cluttered environments elevate baseline anxiety. Organized, minimal spaces promote calm. Average people consume inputs passively. Whatever arrives, they absorb. They scroll mindlessly. They're surprised when they feel anxious without knowing why. Elite performers curate inputs ruthlessly. They treat their attention as their most valuable resource. They protect their morning. Dr. Brooks moved to the second word. Process is what you do with what enters. How you metabolize stress. How you digest difficult emotions. Most people have no processing practice. Stress enters and accumulates. Emotions arise and get suppressed. This creates emotional debt, unprocessed material that weighs on your nervous system, raising baseline anxiety without obvious cause. She outlined the core practices. Daily decompression, 15 minutes at the end of each workday to consciously release accumulated stress. Physical movement to complete stress cycles. Transition rituals between work and personal time. Weekly review, 1 hour per week to process the previous 7 days. What went well? What was challenging? What emotions are still lingering? This prevents accumulation and keeps emotional debt low. Breath practice, 10 to 15 minutes of deliberate breathing practice daily. Research from Harvard Medical School found that consistent breath practice over 8 weeks measurably reduced amygdala reactivity. Marcus shared his experience. I started doing breath work every morning. Just 15 minutes. After a month, I noticed I wasn't getting triggered as easily during practice. Same situations, less reaction. Dr. Brooks nodded. That's your baseline lowering. The breath practice isn't about managing acute stress. It's about training your nervous system to default to calm. Here's the specific morning routine Dr. Brooks prescribed. Minutes 0 to 5, physiological activation. Before reaching for your phone, activate your body. Stand, stretch, shake your limbs. Minutes 5 to 20, breath practice. 15 minutes of box breathing. For seconds inhale, for seconds hold, for seconds exhale, for seconds hold. Minutes 20 to 30, input curation. Something that elevates rather than agitates. No news. No social media. No email. Minutes 30 to 45, physical movement. Walking, stretching, exercise. Minutes 45 to 60, clarity setting. Review your day. Identify your 3 most important tasks. Set an intention for who you want to be today. Minutes 60 to 90, protected focus. Deep work before reactive work. Your most important task before email. Ava had resisted morning routines for years. She believed she wasn't a morning person. But she tried Dr. Brooks's protocol for 2 weeks. The results shocked her. Her energy was higher. Her thoughts were clearer. Her patients noticed she seemed more present. Dr. Brooks pointed to the final word. Recovery is the most neglected pillar. High performers are good at pushing, terrible at resting. Research from the Human Performance Institute demonstrated that elite athletes who prioritize recovery outperform those who train more but recover less. Most people think they're recovering when they're actually just distracting, Dr. Brooks said. Scrolling social media isn't recovery. Watching television isn't recovery. These activities keep your nervous system stimulated. She outlined true recovery practices. Sleep architecture. 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep is non-negotiable for baseline maintenance. Sleep debt accumulates and directly elevates anxiety. Protect sleep as your most important recovery tool. Digital sabbaticals, regular periods completely disconnected from devices. Minimum 1 hour daily. Ideal, 1 full day weekly. Your nervous system needs time without stimulation. Nature exposure. Research from Japan's forest medicine program demonstrates that time in nature measurably reduces cortisol levels. 20 minutes in a natural environment creates measurable recovery effects. Active rest. Activities that restore without stimulating. Walking, gentle stretching, time with loved ones. Activities where your nervous system can genuinely downregulate. Daniel had been neglecting recovery for his entire career. He wore exhaustion as a badge of honor. Working late was proof of dedication. Dr. Brooks challenged this directly. You're not dedicated. You're depleted. And depletion guarantees you'll choke under pressure. Your nervous system doesn't have reserves because you never let it build them. This was hard for Daniel to hear, but he experimented with prioritizing recovery. More sleep, weekly digital sabbaticals, daily walks. Within a month, his performance in high-stakes moments improved noticeably. Not because he was working harder, because he was resting smarter. Average performers see recovery as earned through sufficient work. They rest when exhausted. Elite performers see recovery as preparation for work. They rest to build capacity. Average, recovery is reward. Result, always depleted, fragile under pressure. Elite, recovery is fuel. Result, full reserves, resilient under pressure. Dr. Brooks summarized, the goal isn't to handle pressure better through willpower. It's to build a system that keeps you resourced. When your baseline is low, your inputs are curated, your stress is processed, and your recovery is prioritized, pressure doesn't overwhelm you. You have capacity to spare. The three sat in silence for a moment, absorbing everything. Dr. Brooks looked at each of them. Daniel, before you came to me, you were running on empty. Chronic stress, no recovery, overwhelmed by crises you should have handled easily. Now you understand. The problem wasn't the pressure. It was your depleted state when pressure arrived. Daniel nodded. Ava, your mind never stopped because you never gave it permission. Constant inputs, no processing, no recovery. Your thoughts raced because your nervous system never rested. The overthinking was a symptom. The system was the cause. Ava felt tears form. Someone finally understood. Marcus, you performed afraid because your baseline was fear. Every day, you accumulated stress about being found out. By game time, you were already maxed out. One more stressor pushed you over the edge. Marcus exhaled slowly. Each of you has transformed. You've learned protocols for acute pressure. Now you're building a foundation where those protocols become less necessary. Because when your baseline is low and your reserves are high, most pressure doesn't register as threat. It's just another moment in a life you're equipped to handle. She stood. This is unshakable, not invincibility, not the absence of stress, but a foundation so solid that stress becomes manageable by default. A nervous system so well-maintained that it handles most challenges without conscious intervention. Here is the full baseline building protocol. Daily non-negotiables. Morning protocol. 90 minutes of intentional input, breath practice, movement, and clarity before reactive work. Processing practice. 15 minutes of decompression at day's end. Recovery investment. Minimum 1 hour of true recovery daily. No screens. Sleep protection, 7 to 9 hours. Consistent bedtime. Weekly practices, review session, 1 hour to process the previous week. Digital sabbatical, minimum 4 hours completely disconnected. Nature immersion, at least one extended period in natural environment. This is the architecture of unshakable. Not perfection, consistent practice. Chapter 9, the identity upgrade. Nothing changes until your identity changes. Dr. James Clear, synthesizing studies from major universities, identified a pattern that explains why most self-improvement fails. People try to change their behaviors while keeping their old identity. They want different results while remaining the same person. It never works. You cannot consistently act in ways that contradict who you believe you are. Your identity always wins. Dr. Brooks gathered the three for their final session. You've all made remarkable progress. But I've noticed something. Each of you still refers to yourselves in the old way. She pointed at Daniel. You said last week, I'm managing my anxiety better. Managing, as if anxiety is still your default state. She turned to Ava. You told me. I'm working on my overthinking. Working on, as if the overthinking still defines you. She looked at Marcus. You mentioned, I'm learning to handle pressure. Learning, as if calm under pressure is foreign to who you are. This is the identity gap. Your behaviors have changed. Your nervous systems have rewired. But your self-concept is lagging behind. She wrote on the whiteboard. Old identity, new behavior equals constant effort. New identity, new behavior equals effortless expression. As long as you see yourself as an anxious person using calm techniques, you'll always be swimming upstream. But when you become a calm person, the techniques become unnecessary. Calm is simply what you do. Research from Princeton University reveals something remarkable about identity and behavior. When people perform actions consistent with their identity, the brain's reward centers activate. It feels natural, effortless. When people perform actions inconsistent with their identity, the brain's conflict detection centers activate. It feels forced, exhausting. This is why willpower-based change fails. Every time you use willpower to act against your identity, you're creating internal conflict. But identity-based change works differently. When your identity shifts first, new behaviors feel like natural expression. You don't need more discipline, Dr. Brooks explained. You need a different identity. When you truly see yourself as calm, being calm requires zero effort. It's just who you are. Here's the distinction. Average people try to change behavior while keeping old identity. They say, I'm an anxious person trying to be calm. Every calm moment requires fighting their own self-concept. Elite performers change identity first. They say, I am a calm person. Calm behavior flows naturally from that belief. Average, old identity, new behavior. Result, exhausting, temporary change. Elite, new identity, new behavior. Result, effortless, permanent transformation. Dr. Brooks gave them a specific protocol for upgrading identity. Step 1. Identity declaration. Write a clear statement of your new identity. Not aspirational. Declarative. Not, I want to be calm under pressure. Not, I'm working on being calm. Declare, I am someone who stays calm under pressure. Repeat this statement every morning upon waking, every night before sleep, every time you face a challenge. Your brain doesn't distinguish between truth and repeated statement. Repetition creates belief. Belief shapes identity. This isn't self-deception. It's neurological reprogramming. Step 2. Evidence collection. Each day, find 3 pieces of evidence that support your new identity. Handled a stressful email without panic? Evidence. Stayed present during a difficult conversation? Evidence. Caught yourself overthinking and redirected? Evidence. Write these down. Your brain needs proof. Give it proof daily. The evidence doesn't need to be dramatic. Small moments count. Each piece of evidence strengthens the new neural pathway. Step 3. Identity consistent action. Before any action, ask, what would a calm person do here? Then do that. Not what you feel like doing. Not what your old identity would do. What a calm person would do. Step 4. Language upgrade. Change how you speak about yourself. Old, I have anxiety. New, I sometimes experience anxiety. Old, I'm an overthinker. New, my mind used to loop. Now I redirect. Old, I choke under pressure. New, I perform best when stakes are high. Language shapes thought. Thought shapes identity. Upgrade the language, upgrade the person. Pay attention to how you describe yourself to others. Every self-description either reinforces your old identity or builds your new one. 6 weeks after the identity protocol began, each of them noticed the shift. Daniel stopped using the rapid reset before meetings. Not because he forgot, because he didn't need it. Calm was his default now. Ava's nighttime worry sessions vanished. Her mind had simply stopped looping. Marcus played an entire playoff series without once needing the reset protocol. Pressure came. He performed. No internal battle required. Dr. Brooks had warned them. The techniques are training wheels. Once identity shifts, you won't need them. Calm won't be something you do. It will be something you are. They hadn't believed her. Now they lived it. Here is your protocol. Morning declaration. I am someone who stays calm under pressure. I think clearly when others panic. My nervous system is my ally. I belong in high-stakes moments. Evening evidence. Write 3 moments from the day that proved your new identity. Moment-to-moment question. Before challenges, ask, what would the calm version of me do? Then do exactly that. Language discipline. Remove identity statements that contradict your new self. You are not anxious. You sometimes experience anxiety. You are not becoming a calm person. You are remembering that calm was always available to you. The anxiety, the overthinking, those were learned patterns. Installed by accident. Running on autopilot. Now you are uninstalling the old and installing the new. Deliberately, consciously, permanently. Say this. I am calm. I am clear. I am capable. This is not who I'm becoming. This is who I am. Chapter 10. The Calm Revolution. Your new life. 1 year from today, you will be a different person. The only question is, will the change be intentional or accidental? Research from the European Journal of Social Psychology found that identity-level transformation takes an average of 66 days of consistent practice. Just over 2 months to become someone new. You've spent years becoming who you are now. The anxious patterns, the reactive responses, the pressure that breaks you. You can spend the next 66 days unbecoming all of it. This is your invitation. The calm revolution starts now. Daniel Cole stood at the same conference room podium where he'd once frozen in terror. But today was different. Today, he was the one asking the hard questions. Promoted to vice president, leading a team of 40, known throughout the company as the person who stays calm when everything falls apart. The man who once trembled in his car now trained others in pressure management. His breakdown had become his breakthrough. Ava Turner walked through the hospital corridors with a presence her colleagues noticed immediately. You're different, a young nurse told her recently. Nothing rattles you. How do you do it? Ava smiled. She remembered the sleepless nights, the endless mental loops. Now she slept 7 hours every night. Her mind was quiet. Her patients received her full presence. She had become the calm one for real. Marcus Reed sat in a post-game interview, championship trophy beside him. You hit 3 clutch shots in the final quarter, the reporter said. What was going through your mind? Marcus paused, remembered the old days. The terror, the missed shots. Nothing, he said finally. My mind was clear. I was just playing basketball. He had become unshakable. 3 people, 3 different struggles. 1 transformation. You have everything you need. The science of why you panic and how to stop it. The protocols for acute stress and chronic anxiety. The framework for building an unshakable foundation. The identity upgrade that makes transformation permanent. Now comes the only part that matters. Action. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. Here is your mission for the next 24 hours. Hour 1. Practice the physiological sigh 5 times. 2 inhales stacked, 1 long exhale. Feel your nervous system respond. Hour 2. Write your identity declaration. I am someone who stays calm under pressure. Put it where you'll see it daily. Before sleep tonight, complete the worry dump. Every concern on paper, each one assigned a time or released. Tomorrow morning, begin the morning protocol. 90 minutes before reactive work. These 4 actions begin your transformation. Not theory. Tangible change starting today. The people you admire most, the ones who seem unshakable, who think clearly in chaos, they are not different species. They are trained. Their calm is not a gift. It's a skill they built through deliberate practice. Their clarity is not luck. It's the result of systems and protocols executed consistently. Everything they have, you can have. Everything they've built, you can build. The only difference between who you are and who they are is training. And your training begins now. Stand up. Yes, right now. Stand up wherever you are. Take 1 physiological sigh. 2 inhales. 1 long exhale. Feel your nervous system respond. Feel the shift. That's your body showing you what's possible. Now say these words. Out loud if possible. In your mind if necessary. But say them with conviction. I am not my anxiety. I am not my overthinking. I am not my fear of failure. I am calm. I am clear. I am capable. My nervous system is my ally. My mind serves me. My identity is my choice. Pressure does not break me. It reveals my training. From this moment forward, I am someone who stays calm, thinks clearly, and wins under pressure. This is not who I'm becoming. This is who I am. The calm revolution begins now, and it begins with me. This is your life now. Not the life of panic and reaction. Not the life of sleepless nights and racing thoughts. Not the life of choking when it matters most. A new life. A calm life. A powerful life. You have the knowledge. You have the tools. You have the identity. Now go build the life you deserve. The revolution is yours.